what is there, which is used in parking lots that can damage your car. And also on a side note, there's no signs to warn drivers that there's a speed bump there, which would let the town be liable for any damage done to a vehicle. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I have a picture here that I downloaded of Hunt versus a bump.
Thank you. We'll pass that around. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our public comment section of the agenda. The next item on the agenda requires a public hearing, so at this time I would open the public hearing. The public hearing is related to a proposed text amendment to our Unified Development Ordinance, and it is proposed to amend some of the language of Article 10 of the ordinance. The first subsection on this agenda item is presentation of our staff report. Dwayne?
Good afternoon. So this came about with the request from a citizen about a private campground RV park that was heard, I believe, back in November. At Chairman, Shawnee County Commission Chair Bob Kirby's suggestion was to use the Shawnee County ordinance because he stated that it was effective. Went through, looked at it, compared it to others, very similar language. Kind of created it to where it was specific to the town of Edenton. Took it in front of the planning board. They made one or two suggestions that are highlighted and struck through on your development standards there in your packet. So what this would do would make it for a major special use permit in the R40 and R20 for private campground RV park. One of the things highlighted in the proposed ordinance would be new recreational vehicle parks to be located at least 3 miles from any other existing recreational vehicle park, limiting the amount allowable within town limits, as well as struck through no on-site water source facility shall be permitted on any campsite. That was because it would be basically handled through town water and sewer. So that was the two changes to that. So I believe that was pretty much all that was going to be included in the text amendment.
The planning board approved this unanimously.
It was approved unanimously. You have the minutes from that planning board meeting in your packet.
Dwayne, are there any major differences between what you're proposing and what the county has already in place?
There's no major difference other than the two things, one highlighted, one struck through, getting rid of a certain language and basically limiting the amount of new recreational vehicle parks that can be allowable in town limits.
And then secondly, just to clarify, right now our UDO is silent on regulation of these type of things.
There's zero regulation within our UDO that even addresses. There's some that you can get to kind of fit what it is, but this really lays out the development of and regulation of this type of private RV park.
Do any other council members have any questions?
I do, as it relates to the ETJ. The state has gotten rid of ETJ, is that correct? Or when does that take effect?
There's not an implementation date that I know of yet. I know that that's been in discussion for certain Senate bills, but I don't know a whole lot date.
How would that take effect for future governance of this?
It's one of those, we kind of have to cross that bridge when we get there. We haven't had an issue that came up. We've had some preliminary discussions with the county and the county planner about this. It would really increase the workload for the county planner to do that and not have any town input. There's really pros and cons of each, and I'll be able to provide you a better update when I can find the date that that's going to be effective.
Gotcha.
And try to answer some of those questions a little more thoroughly. But I don't know off the top when that's going to happen.
Can you just note your records to come back to us when that does happen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions of Dwayne regarding this issue? Okay, thanks, Dwayne. The next subsection of this agenda item is the actual public hearing. It's at this point in time that we open up the floor to public comment regarding the proposed text amendment to our UDO Article 10. Is there anyone present tonight that would like to speak on the proposed text amendment? Okay, there appearing to be no public comments, I would close the public hearing at this time, and we're back in regular session. At this point in time, for the purposes of getting this forward on discussion, I would entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
That's it.
Second.
Any discussion on this particular issue? It seems to me that we've got a gap in our regulations, and staff has noticed that and proposed this amendment for that particular reason, and it appears it closely aligns with what the county already has in place. Does anybody have any further comments or anything?
Just agree with you. Just agree with what you're saying.
Okay, well, we got a motion and a second. All in favor of the text amendment as set forth by staff, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and at this point in time, we will move to the new business section of our agenda. Corey Gooden's going to lead us through that item. It's a request for a budget amendment related to the Bolton Bridge utility line relocation.
Thank you, Mayor. The budget amendment that we're looking at is for $31,436.77. If you remember, council had recently approved a project with NCDOT to have the Bolton Bridge renovations, the work for that done. During that project, the utility poles were needing to be replaced or relocated. When we first started this project, we knew that there would be some additional costs after the fact, once the project was over with. When we initially entered into this agreement with NCDOT, that this would be strictly a reimbursement style project, that the town would handle any cost associated with its assets, and would just simply seek reimbursement. And that's what this budget amendment allows us to do. The contracted rate of $31,436.77. The finance director and myself recommend that council approve the budget amendment as presented.
Okay, we've got a recommendation from our manager and town staff that we approve this budget amendment. Since it is a budget amendment, we do need to vote on that, and as such, I'll entertain a motion in a second.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion or any questions that anybody may have of our town manager? Okay, there appearing none. All in favor of this budget amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that budget amendment passes. The next item under new business is the consideration of a report on the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services STRAP grant. Dwayne Wilton, our assistant manager, is here to speak on that. No action is necessary tonight. This is just for informational purposes, and Dwayne is going to describe the purpose and amount of this grant for us. Dwayne?
Yes, sir. Understanding as we move through our coastal resiliency study that we're conducting through CAMON, Department of Coastal Management, as well as engineers from WSP Engineering. And we do have a public meeting next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, second floor of the library, if you want to come. Listen to them. It's going to be like a workshop kind of thing. So it'll be good for the community to voice their concerns on flooding, identification, different things like that. So one of the big things is constructed wetlands near Granville Street and Virginia Road. Public Works Director David Myers, as well as Town Manager Corey Gooden, identified that it was in need of debris removal, sediment removal, and dead vegetation removal to really properly work the way it's supposed to get in front of this grant and or get in front of the coastal resiliency that we're really doing. We decided to go after this grant to $35,000 in costs, projected to hopefully remove sediment, debris, and dead vegetation for better flow through that section to prevent flooding, overwashed, vehicle accidents, things like that. So that's one of the reasons why we went after this grant. We're just trying to keep the council and public informed of any major activity that's going on. If you know anybody with the state or the soil and water conservation, put in a good word for us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Mayor.
Dwayne, we got a question, I'm sorry.
When you say debris, is that, are you talking about litter as well as vegetative debris?
Yeah, any type of
It
debris.
really does get
Yeah.
trashy down there.
Yeah, and the flow comes back from Stratford Hawthorne, Moore Circle. So it really is like a catch-all kind of
Yeah.
basin there. It's really in desperate need from what we're looking at now to really function the way I think it was created. So we see that as probably number one on the list of easy low-hanging fruit to go after first.
And the grant is gonna cover all the costs?
That's what they say, so that's why if you know anybody, let them know that we need it.
Okay.
We'll see when it happens.
Thank you, Dwayne. Are there any other, on this agenda item, are there any other questions or comments from the council?
One thing to add, Mayor, we were very excited for Dwayne to stumble upon this. One of the things we had been working with the mayor's task force this previous year centered around that constructed wetlands. And so for us to conveniently have an opportunity to try to address some of the sediment concerns as well as the cleanup and to try to work towards getting some of the wetland plants back in that basin under control. This is just perfect timing and like Dwayne said, fingers crossed on this because that would go a long way for some site prep to return it back to its original state.
Corey, how long has it been a wetland there? When was that established? Years?
And that wetland was first implemented from a project from the Soil and Water Conservation folks when Scott Alons was still with that department. I don't exactly remember the exact date, but I do know that some of the larger maintenance hasn't been done on that site, but just north of that since 2017. I know that was the area between there and the medical center was kind of cleaned up while Scott was still around to kind of advise where we could and couldn't dig. And since that time, things have continued to kind of fill up, and so we're hoping that we can work with the soil and water folks to look back at those old plans and try to get an idea of what it was when it was originally put in place to try to regain what we had before.
And one comment I had that we're unable to hear from Dick Mayer today about his Interchange Angels program, but that's designed for litter around our four interchanges off of Highway 17. And moving forward, I would like for us to keep an eye on the litter situation in these wetlands areas. I understand that the grant is more towards digging out sediment and making sure that the water capacity is still there. But I do get a lot of comments and complaints about the amount of trash around that particular area of town. Are there any other comments or questions that we have of staff? The next,
Could it be a collaborative effort with the county with that? Are there any discussions with them as far as them contributing to?
I know that Commissioner Larry McLaughlin has an interest in the interchange issue, litter issue, and also litter in general. So we can certainly talk to him and get that conversation going. I spoke to him over the holidays at some point in time on Broad Street about it. But that's a good point.
With the county, Dick Mayer is the coordinator, volunteer coordinator for litter control for the county. And like you said, he'll talk about the 20, the interchanges, the 20 ramps when he's here. But,
And I think it's a positive sign that
Yeah.
the county's at least interested in listening to Mr. Mayor like we are. Yeah, but we'll stay on top of that. That's a good point. The next item of new business does require action. It is an agenda item related to professional service procurement related to our CDBG grant. And with that particular agenda item, the grant administrator of Insight Planning is asking that we specifically approve a service contract for the removal of asbestos in the houses that are subject to the CBDG project. They would like to go ahead and start as soon as possible on the inspection process. And if Corey or Dwayne, if either one of you have any further information on that, please share that with us before we consider it.
We have Chris Hilbert, he's with Insight Plan Development, who's overseeing this project. Basically, a quick rundown with this is Mr. Hilbert, and he'll speak on this in just a second, will specifically request the council's approval for the asbestos removal. We didn't receive enough bids for the lead-based paint inspections or the survey. So if anybody knows a survey or lead-based paint inspector, there's an RFP out there for these projects to get moving forward. That's related to the $750,000 grant the town received to rehabilitate / rebuild 5 properties throughout town. So Chris, if you can hear me, if you want to explain this any farther or answer any questions that may come up, that'll be helpful.
Yes, making sure you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we received 4 proposals for asbestos inspection services. So we did a rating sheet, and we were recommending the contract go to WF Kilo Inspections. All 4 were very good firms and firms that I've worked with before. So, you know, some of it came down to price. But as Dwayne said, the lead-based paint inspection and the surveying, we've got the RFP, the second RFP back out now. So we should have those before your next meeting. Hopefully we'll get additional bids for that. So I'm welcome to answer any questions.
Mr. Hilbert, this is Corey Gooden. One question I've got, I think that the group would like to have some consensus on is, can you kind of share where that puts us at in the schedule for these homes? I know that we've been working through this for quite a while now, and I didn't, you know, where exactly is this in the process?
Yeah, absolutely, Corey. I appreciate that. We received finally the release of funds on December 11th from the Department of Commerce. The environmental review process was a struggle last year and has held up the project. The state they've been sending all the environmental reviews to HUD, so it was really a HUD review, not a state review. So that became more complicated. And that goes for every project that they were doing. So we've got that release of funds now, so we can move forward with professional services and we can move forward with bidding the houses. We've completed the scopes of work for the houses. The only thing we need for professional services is just to find out whether there's asbestos and find out whether there's lead in the houses so that we can incorporate any of that into the scopes of work. And as soon as we figure that out, then we will bid them out to general contractors. So I would say that should go out in February or March. We should be able to get those bids out on the street to the general contractors and start work as soon after that.
I got a question. These 4 or 5 houses, they're located in Edenton, right?
Yes.
I'm quite sure there are more houses in Edenton than these 4 or 5. So when will we do a survey of the rest of the houses to clear them of asbestos and this type paint? Is this just a one-time thing?
This would only focus on the 5 houses that were selected to begin with, but I think the greater arching question, knowing that there are only 5 that are impacted this go-round, is there anything that we should know about the next round of funding for an additional CBDG grant going forward? Is Dwayne or Chris, can you?
Yeah, and me and Chris have spoke on this. As we continue through this project, we're going to work with Insight to identify more houses that need work. And Chris, if I'm correct, that's something you can help out with as soon as this grant is complete.
That's absolutely right. As the grant winds down, we can, go back out for another application round so that additional houses can apply to the town for rehabilitation needs. And then a grant can be requested to the state for a separate grant. So this is kind of a starting point. It's $750,000 for this particular grant. The grant awards now, because this was a couple of years ago when this went through, but the grant awards now are $950,000. So, hopefully we'll be able to do some additional grants down the road.
How often does that grant open up, or when's the next time it's opening up? Do you understand?
Is it once a year or twice a year, Chris, that this grant opens up? I know it'll depend on how it falls, but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Yeah, they do have an annual cycle that they give out every year. So, but typically you don't apply back-to-back years. So they want to see that you're further along in your project before they'll, entertain another application. So if we get houses done this year, we may be able to apply next year.
Did these 5 homeowners, did they actually apply to do the application on their own? Or did somebody visit them and say, you ought to think about this particular project?
This happened before me. I believe it was each individual applied to the town. Correct, Chris?
Yes, I think we received about 10 or 11 applications total. With the former planning director was handling that. And these 5 houses were selected out of that group of applications.
Was that advertised in the paper so the citizens would know?
I sent it to Department of Commerce about 3 times. It was advertised.
No, not that. Was it advertised so these people would know to apply to the grant?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it was put out for advertising.
okay.
And Chris, we did not receive enough bids for the lead-based paint inspection. Do we expect to receive more bids in the future, or how do we go about fixing that issue so that can get started as well?
Yeah, lead-based paint is our tough one because most of those firms are coming from Raleigh. So we did get one proposal. So I'm hoping through this next go round, maybe we'll get at least one more proposal. If we only get that one, we can go through a sole source procurement.
Thank you.
Okay, those are all good questions. Any more questions? At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve and award the bid for the asbestos removal for these houses to WB Bulow Inspections.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? There appearing to be none. All in favor of approving this bid, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right, Dwayne and Chris, we've got your approval on that part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work. The next agenda item is a new agenda item, and that is the manager's report. This agenda item was requested to be added to tonight's agenda by me, and I'm going to request that council please consider adding this permanently to our agenda for each regular meeting. The reason why I asked that this be added tonight as a new agenda item, I wanted there to be a place on the agenda that gave the manager an opportunity to report both to the general public and to council in an open session matters that may have been brought up, for example, in public comment. Sometimes you bring up things in public comment and they may feel like they're slipped through the cracks or kind of lost in the shuffle, but it's an opportunity for our manager to come back to us and say, hey, last meeting we had this concern raised and this is what I have to report. And also from time to time, councilmen, particularly under our agenda item designated items considered timely and important, bring up questions. So it's just a good opportunity to keep the council informed, and as we're informing council, also inform the public what is going on. I've discussed it with Corey, and I think he met with it with favor. If you want to speak on that a little bit, and about what would need to be done to push this proposal forward, and then also I do think you have a couple items you'd like to report on.
I do, thank you, Mayor. So one thing for us to consider, I wanted to use this time as an example for us to consider if we wanted to critique the formatting of these responses, if council saw a need in changing the response. And also if council does approve this or would like to see this, the one thing that we ask is that at our next meeting, that council consider adding this agenda item to the rules of policy and doing an update through the administrative committee, which we could put on the agenda for the 22nd at our next round. So just to kind of give you an update, there were two items that were brought to the attention by the public and from items considered timely and important that I just wanted to share with folks. Particularly the first item is the road diet. Just to give everyone an update, this item was tabled until the committee meeting on the 22nd for an updated review. In addition to the other items from Public Works that was committed, including the Granville Street and Robin Lane work. We've been reevaluating all three items to see if there's any alternative solutions to bring back for council to consider from some of the initial first designs and first ideas, particularly with, considering the speed bump, the stop signs, the stop light, the four-way stop, the bike lanes, the three-way or 3 lanes of traffic, etc. We will review that back on the 22nd of this month, all three of those items. The second item that was brought to the attention was one of the Fairfield Marriott updates, and we wanted to share with the public as well as the council that we met with a future developer on December 20th, 2023 for an update. Currently, there are 2 projects in front of the one that is to happen here in Edenton. They are very much still interested in the project. It's just a matter of pipeline for the other 2 projects that are in front. The developer did anticipate a possible late 2024, but more than likely 2025 project start time. And so that's the format for what Mayor High and I had discussed as far as going back and reviewing those public comments, going back, reviewing the items timely and important, and try to provide at least an update within 30 days. And I know we had some concerns tonight from some of our public comments. And just so you know that, taking some notes for tonight's meeting, and these type of responses will be provided at the next meeting. So,
Well, Corey, I want to thank you for everything you do for this council and also for our citizens. And I just think, as I said earlier, I think it'll be a great opportunity to keep us informed publicly and also keep our citizens. And also a good opportunity to show how hard you work, because we certainly know how hard you do work, and we want to make sure you know that we appreciate it.
thank you, Mayor.
The next item on our agenda is our items considered timely and important. And this is an opportunity for our councilmen to express any items that they've heard around town or they consider personally important to the town or to them. I believe the last time we started on the right with Councilman Turner. So Councilman Costin, do you have anything you'd like to bring up for the good of the town or the council?
One.
Okay.
So
Corey, at the corner of Oakham Circle and Oakham Street, that entrance, so there are several potholes, like large potholes. I got a phone call from a couple residents of that neighborhood that expressed some concerns about it. I think there was an issue with the management property manager trying to figure out, I guess, who's responsible for it. I think at one point they said the town owned it, and then they were responsible for some back and forth there. Do we have an update as to who owns it and who's
Yep.
supposed to be maintaining that road?
Yep, so I think I can answer that one now. I did speak with the Public Works Director, either Thursday or Friday last week after we spoke. I sent him an email, letting him know that I wanted to get those places addressed. And for the greater, question about, whose is what, as we entered into some of the, updates for the, broadband provider, we had to go back and review, some of the contractual agreements from way back when the Housing Authority, was actually implemented here in town. Those projects were bonded similarly to any other development project that we have, and that the town would assume ownership of those assets after the project's completion. So we got a clear path forward, who's responsible, responsibilities there are, and at least in the short term, those places will be addressed.
Is it a timeline by chance?
Yeah, I imagine if we hadn't had a storm this week, it would probably already been done. If not tomorrow,
Okay.
it should be early next week, yeah.
Okay, good, thanks. That was it.
I would just like to point out that our team did a great job with the storm on Tuesday night. I am informed by emergency management that we've got another similar storm coming in late tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night, and would just encourage everyone to be cautious with that. Also would like to give a shout out to Tyler Newman, who always gives us good updates on social media as it relates to our weather, and it's just a fact of life living in this part of the state. And we encourage you to continue to follow Tyler on all of our social media platforms as this new storm rolls in. But that's all I've got. How about you?
I got three that the people keep asking me about. One is when I told them that Broad Street is supposed to be paved sometime this year. It is 2024.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, they were wondering, was it a date that the department had set for?
So I can give you an answer on that. We had a conversation last Thursday or Friday with representatives from NCDOT. We're scheduling the pre-con date. The reason that we're doing that is to go ahead and address some of the underlying utilities in the area, as well as some of the concrete work for the sidewalks and the curb and gutter where things need to be replaced. That meeting should be within the next 2 weeks. We'll actually meet with NCDOT, the town and its representatives, as well as the contractor that will do the paving. So I would say within the next 60 days, we should see those crews in doing some of the prep work to get ready for the paving, because the contractor, we were assured, is very eager to get started on Broad Street.
Okay, so that paving is gonna come from the stop light here by Exxon, all the way out to
17,
Seabrook,
all the way out.
all the way out to the bypass.
Yep.
Past Colony Tower, right on through.
North Broad Street Extension ramp, yep, all the
Okay.
way out that far.
Second one,
Yeah.
they wanted to know, is the shopping center ready to be open, and have they got a grocery store to go into?
So I'll be glad to respond. Chess and I have some follow-up. Chess is here with us tonight also. The shopping center is very close to securing some of its first tenants. Still undisclosed who those are. There are some logistics we need to iron out with us and the county as far as opportunities. But I would say we should have some tenants relatively soon. I don't want to.
I had lunch with the real estate broker today. They expect a letter of intent from their first tenant in the next 2 weeks.
Is it a grocery store?
That first one is not. They are running down. Their grocery tenant is their main priority, and that's what Corey and I have discussed this evening, and hopefully have an update and letter of intent from them in the next month.
Okay.
And Chess, when letters of intent are signed in this particular industry, does it then become public, or
Yes,
is it at some later stage?
the letter of intent, I'll be able to tell you who they're talking to. Yes, sir.
And just for the public's education on this matter, again, we talked earlier about a lot of frustration we have about stuff that we can't share. It's also another frustrating part of this job, sometimes when we know things are happening, but we don't know much more than that. And this is an example. We know that there are 3 or 4 letters of intent floating out there. And the way this industry works, the broker and the potential tenant don't disclose this at this point in time. But when they do get a letter of intent, it then becomes disclosable. We know, and then we can pass it on to you. So I know it's frustrating at times, but that's just the way it works.
Third one, I know you tired of hearing about this one, but folks said 10 years ago they were told that they could go to the top of the hotel and eat and dine on the roof and sip and look at the waterfront. How close are we to getting that done?
So, to kind of piggyback concerns that Mayor High shared, we have been in some discussion amongst ourselves. One thing that I think that we can share is that the Saga property did receive its first courtesy letter and first notice of violations with our contractor that we work with for ACE inspections. It's sad to say that they were further on the list because there were locations that were in front of the line for worse conditions that Dwayne's gonna try to provide us with an update here soon on the success. And we've been, pegging our way through, and that all solidified in late November and early December, and we have received confirmation that they received that first notice. We've got to schedule some follow-up conversations with Saga that we hope to do after our planning session this upcoming week.
Do you want to know the last one?
Sure.
How, I'll put it this way, I'm not gonna use the words they use. How can the town of Edenton get out of this contract with Saga with that hotel? Why can't they buy it back from
That could be a consideration. I think there are multiple avenues to get out of that, and I think that's some of the things that we'll discuss more in the next couple of weeks with the council as well as the folks from Saga.
Okay.
And I think you have to have a willing buyer, and I think there are probably a number of willing buyers out there and a willing seller. And so those kind of conversations continue to try to get a willing seller, if you know what I mean.
Okay, I got you. I'm through now.
Councilman
I have
Miller.
a couple. Corey, do you know when improvements are projected to begin on the neighborhood parks?
So, yes, we were gonna go through that. We got a letter back just the day or two after New Year's, from the representative from Carolina Parks and Play. We should have site plans really soon. What our plans are to share those with the engineering, services group that the, North Carolina League has connected us with, to try to take those two-dimensional drawings and layouts and turn those into architectural renderings for us to have some public display at these parks to get some feedback to see if there's any final tweaks. I would say it would be safe to say that we should have the site plans within 60 days or less. How quick can we get the renderings back? I'm unsure. This is a new venue that we're exploring with the league for professional services. We're going to focus holistically on the architectural design and rendering of what these will look like in their place, in their places. And we really want to take those back to the public and allow them to see that,
Good.
knowing that the equipment has been discussed, but does it go here or does it go 25 feet this way? Some of those items that we heard initially from the community surveys that Tyler put out have been placed, they've been shared with the developers. I would really love to get those renderings in late spring, so we could go ahead and start the construction around that time, or at least the ordering of the equipment. Now, some of the equipment, some of the updates can happen sooner because of the simplicity of some of the things that are needed, pavilion, picnic tables, things of that nature. We could go ahead and start some of that here more locally before we're actually waiting on the supplier to get, the new tower or the new set of swings, structure or whatever it may be. So we will get, I would say, geared up in the April timeframe is what I'm shooting for.
Okay,
To start
so you're saying by
construction.
late summer, things should be looking pretty good.
We would love to have as much as we can completed for kids to be able to enjoy during the
Great.
summer months and when they're out of school.
Oh, that's great.
Have we decided on those parks, which parks getting
Yes.
which? Or, no?
No, we shared every location, everything that was considered, and we're gonna try to really stretch the dime as far as we can get it.
These are 5 parks.
Yeah, and as soon as we get those two-dimensional drawings back from the consultant that actually you would purchase the equipment from, we plan to share those initially, very quickly.
Great. Just have one more.
Okay.
Any updates on the Coast Guard certification of the Harbor Town ferries?
No, I do not have an update to provide. I did not participate in the board of directors call this past Thursday. However, those vessels are slated for use this spring. There's a season in which they fall into,
Right.
and we plan to open for that, which those seasons are either starts in March or April.
But they have to be certified by Coast Guard prior to
Does that matter to the Coast Guard, that what we intend the season to be?
Well, no.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Sellers?
Thank you. Mayor, how you met with law enforcement, federal and local, on Monday here. And I know the focus was violent crime. In light of recent events in Edenton, was fentanyl or drug overdose, were those issues discussed, ways to combat that?
Very, very much so, and for those of you that weren't aware, our United States Attorney for the Eastern District of North Carolina, Michael Easley Jr., came to Edenton earlier this week and led a meeting of law enforcement and leaders in the northeast portion of our state, and included police chiefs, sheriffs, deputies, officers. We had this whole room full. And Attorney Easley is committed to having a working group that meets once a month. And one of the first things that they intend to do, they have seen, and we've made this comment before, they've seen that a lot of the bad actors don't respect county lines and city lines, and they're going all over the northeastern part of the state and engaging in criminal activity. And so they have opened up a communication network where certain people are on their radar and more people are getting on their radar, so they're going to concentrate on that. But all of them were in agreement that there's a very close tie between the drug trade and the violent crime that we're seeing. And Sheriff Bassnight was here, Chief King was here, and there was a lot of concern was brought up regarding the recent fentanyl deaths. And they see it all tied together, so yes, very much so.
Thank you.
Councilman Turner.
Mayor, I kind of like it when you start on this end.
Well, that's why I'm gonna start on different ends, because a lot of times, if you're on the end, all your questions have already been asked, so we'll give you
But I
the
did throw-
opportunity to shine
That's all right.
next month.
I do have a couple though. Speaking of Saga, when I was attending a meeting here last year, they also came to speak about their other, I guess you could say, endeavor out there that they were wanting to present to us. And we kind of ran them out of room, which was okay. But have they come back with any more on what they wanna do out there?
We've been trying to work with getting a schedule together, for the representatives as well as some of the town staff to, revisit that, and our schedules have not aligned, so no update as of tonight.
Alright.
Well, we started the new year kind of looking at things
Yeah.
and started trying to set up something where we could sit down and talk to them. And the schedule's right now, but definitely sometime in January is our hope.
And then the second thing is, I know we compiled a list and did an amazing job with our own paving and schedule. Will there be some more the second year, and how do we compile that list?
So for us, we did a condition assessment back in 2017, of the way of categorizing the best to the worst streets in town. It's quite a substantial list. Virginia and I kind of picked up off of what we will call round 3. If you remember, the first round happened back in 2018. We did a second round since that was tied loosely to a water and sewer project. This third round we just completed this year. What we will need to do is go back through, because it's been 5 or 6 years, reevaluate the list for 2 reasons. One, to see if the roads that were paved are still in great shape, good shape, fair shape, poor shape. And then secondly, we would evaluate the streets that had not been paved, apply that same thought process for their condition assessment, and see how that shorter list now compares. Are there streets that are still in great shape because of low vehicle travel that, need to be a priority 5, or are there streets that we need to push up to a priority 1? We do plan to work on that list and try to partner that with some of the efforts we're gonna see on Granville and Broad Street with NCDOT. We really want them to pave as many of those aprons as we can get done along both roads, so the distance for us is a little bit shorter, to really stretch those dollars. But we will revisit that. Virginia and I, we'll need to evaluate where we are as we approach the end of this budget season, so we can make recommendations on a comfortable amount for council to consider for spending.
User,
Yes, sir.
you just made me think about something.
Uh-oh.
My curbing and sidewalks and gutters was promised for this year. That's still on the list. We still gonna get that in North
Yes.
Edenton and all around.
So, David and I have been working on, trying to identify not only what streets need to be paved, because you can bundle a lot of the sidewalk and the curb and gutter at that time, but we've also identified places that there's just a lack of it. And we want to start with that list first and hope to couple some of the curb and gutter that's needed with the streets that are to be paved. That way you don't spend your money
You want me
elsewhere.
to give you my list?
Yes.
Hey Corey, talking about streets, when the state comes and does Broad Street, will they do that little apron there at Coke? They didn't finish the entire
Yes,
street out
Yes.
to Broad, okay.
that's right. And so most of the aprons along the north and south corridor for Broad Street, as well as Granville, those would be addressed. Do I think that honestly we will be as fortunate this round with 20+ roads? Probably not. I think one thing that we can look at, if we look at the number of infrastructure projects we've done for water and sewer and the paving associated with that, as well as the standalone paving projects, I think a visual aid, a map for council to see all the places that we've done on these large contracts, as well as the funds we always set aside in-house for a handful of small secondary roads with smaller contractors. I think that map would be a really good start. We have requested that Wooten Company send us an updated version of that. I would be glad to send that out, and you can kind of see these hot spots. I would really like to include Broad Street and Granville on that, when you think about just the volume that they take up. I would, as we enter into the paving season, which usually starts around March, if you have good days, I think that would be the next 60 days for us would be a good time to start some of the evaluations, and to have a list ready in March.
This is something usually David Myers is pretty much involved in.
Yes, yeah. And so, I think we should be able to get you that list very quickly, the map, and then have a list ready for the Public Works Committee to consider, in the March, April timeframe, once we get some reasonable estimates.
And Councilman Turner, previous council had made a commitment to take a look at this once a year. And one goal would be so that we wouldn't be stuck in any one year paving 20 streets, but just try to stay on top of it. And I'm like Corey, I don't think it's realistic to expect that we would be able to pave 20 streets every year. But at least we're always talking about it, and we talk about a rolling paving schedule so that we would have an idea come paving season every year, what we could do. And so I think by your questions, I know Patrick is concerned about it also, and those of us that are remaining up here already made the commitment as a previous council that we were going to take a look at this annually and just keep it rolling.
Could we get Councilman Bond's initials and some of that curbing?
I think we can do that.
We'll be happy to do it.
I hope so.
Okay, well, thank you for all of your items that you brought to our attention. As we move towards adjournment, I would like to remind council the hour's still decently early, that tonight is picture night, so don't run off after adjournment. But with that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Yeah. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.